Hi, I'm Sam, your inner voice and self-trust coach for women who refuse to choose between career success and being fully present with their kids. This is Journal Entries, where we break free from self-sabotage, reconnect with our inner wisdom, and live truly fulfilled lives in both of our roles. Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome to Journal Entries. Today, we are diving into my actual journal, and it's actually in Google Docs because what I'm about to share was such an emotional time that I had so much on my brain and I can type faster than I can write. And so I went to my Google Docs, I had bullet points, word vomit, all of the things in there, and I'm going to untangle that with you. And this is actually going to be a two-part series. Today is going to be the before. So the actual situation that I'll be walking you through is my thoughts and fears and anxieties around the change in schedule with sending my son to his new Montessori school. And then the second part of the series, which will air next Tuesday, is going to be the update. So I'm actually recording this on Friday, August 8th, Griffin's last day of daycare. But next week's episode will be real time. All right, we've been to this Montessori program for a month or so. How is it going? Is it as a shit show as I expected it to be? Or am I living and thriving and loving it? So subscribe if you're not already so that you can stay tuned for the next episode for part 2. But let's dive into today's topic. This has been one of the things that I desired for Griffin since he was a baby. And I don't know why. I never really pictured my kid not going to a regular school, not being on like regular sports teams and whatnot. I don't know, but there was just this desire for him to experience the Montessori style. And I was kind of going back and forth on it. But what happened in January was it was time to register my son for school. And I'm holding him back a year because his birthday is in October. And so I want him to do pre-K this next year. But with our city school systems, since his birthday is before the cutoff of December 1st, I literally can't send him to pre-K. He would have to go into kindergarten. And I spent so long last year processing this decision and what I wanted for my son. And I finally came up with a decision, which per usual, I knew instinctually within like 3 seconds, but I just overthought it. But I wanted to just stick to my decision of sending him to pre-K. So my options became either sending him to a local private school, which had half-day care available because all of the other full-day spots were filled, which was honestly my first preference because all of his friends are going there from daycare. But when I found out that that was only a half day, I thought, well, let me check out this Montessori program that I've gone to their location for a few events. But let's just see like pricing, scheduling, and whatnot. And it's also a half day. So long story, not short, I signed him up and I'm very excited. This is just, again, something that I've been excited to try. I'm excited for him to experience this type of learning and being around more play-based education. However, there has been so much fear and anxiety and like, what the fuck am I going to do? Because of a few key things. One is right now, today being the last day, I send Griffin to school or to daycare from about 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. I did the calculation once and that was like 7 hours, I think. 7 hours. And during that time, I come home and I work. I have silence and I'm able to pick up the house and I have silence. Again, I've just realized like, oh my God, I'm not going to really have much time to myself. I'm going to be in mom mode. And one thing I know about myself is that when I am in mom mode, and I attempt to work, or vice versa, when I'm supposed to be working, but it's an impromptu day with my son home and I have to step into mom mode. If I'm not careful, I get extremely overstimulated. I am an amazing mom, I feel, when I'm a mom, and I'm an amazing entrepreneur when I'm running my business. When I blur the lines, that's when my brain goes overload. And I first thought, like, there's something wrong with me. Why can't I do this? Why can't I multitask? But I'm realizing that it's actually a strength for me to separate these two. And so once I found out that Montessori program is a go, I came to Google Docs to just brain dump all of my fears. So this episode is going to be walking you through how I processed this. And then I'm going to record an episode again after Griffin starts Montessori, which isn't until September 8th. So there will be a lag in the recording. But I'm hoping that this will help the person out there who is extremely overwhelmed. Because today, especially, I'm going to be walking you through how I've been managing the stress and anxiety that comes with it, even if it's something that you want. And then the second episode, I thought would just be fun to see how is it going? Did shit hit the fan like I was fearful of? Or am I thriving and loving life? Or somewhere in between? For now, let's dig into my journaling. So I truly used it as a brain dump. What I mean by that is anything that's on my mind, I just dump it onto paper. I was just on a call with a client and I was like, it's your dumping grounds. Just do bullet point list, write down word vomit paragraphs about all the things, your to-do list, your feelings, all the things. But this was targeted towards Montessori and I titled it Homeschool Thoughts. And you'll see why in a second. So I started off this journaling with just general thoughts and feelings. And I wrote down, I just dropped G off at daycare and came home to silence. It's glorious in caps lock. Thinking about not having this makes me want to cry. Like I'm literally tearing up thinking about not having time to myself. Just putting myself back there because I wrote this Google document back in, I think, February or March, maybe, I think February. And that's how anxious I was. Which again, just feels so contrary to my desire to send Griffin to this Montessori program. But it was the reality hitting me that it's not just sending my son to a Montessori program. So much is going to be changing for me and our household and how we do things. So then my next thing that I jotted down was questions/fears. So this was when I just jotted down, when will I have private calls with my clients? When will I do podcast recordings? This Montessori school is 25 minutes away. And I haven't shared yet that it's 11:45 to 2:30. So with driving there and back on the days that I want to work from home to have private calls and to record podcasts and whatnot, I will only have about an hour and a half to myself to work that day. That's it. And when I want to stay in that city to work from a library or a coffee shop, I will have about 2.5 hours. So going from these 7-hour days to 2.5 or 1.5, literally my mind went bonkers of like, I froze and I was in like this panic attack almost. And then what always happens with women who like to problem solve is I wrote down that one question of scheduling and I immediately tried to problem solve. I started jotting down ideas like I can get a sitter for the mornings when he's here. I could do these from 3:30 to 5:30 on the days when Griffin is with my mom after school, which I still haven't asked her about. Will these calls and recordings have to be between 12 to 2 when Griffin is at school? Will I race home? Will I go to a coffee shop? All of this stuff. And then that led me to scheduling ideas. So this is getting specific. I'm not sure if this will apply for your situation, but I started jotting down what could a schedule be for the hours of 7 to 11, because those are the hours that Griffin will be home with me before we leave for school. Because this is when I started to realize it's not just school. It's not just the 11:45 to 2:45. What about in the mornings when I'm used to working, when I'm used to me time? And so I started kind of typing up this potential temporary schedule of like, okay, say he wakes up at 7. We can play at 7:30. At 8 a.m., I'll have him get dressed. At 8:30, I'll have him brush his teeth. At 9 to 10 or 9 to 11, depending on the day, we'll try and do something. So one day a week, I'll go to childcare at the YMCA and maybe I can work out then, or we'll go to the library. I started planning out certain things, or we'll do like a workbook activity at home, putting pressure on myself to like be teacher in the morning now. Then after that, it was just like driving, Montessori program /work, driving back home. And that's just one example, by the way. I wrote down like 2 other schedules, one for Griffin, one for me. I went full blown crazy. But it's good. It's good to get all of this out. A conversation I'm consistently having right now with my private clients is that we are so quick to dismiss our feelings. And I've even said that multiple times here of like, I don't know why I feel anxiety because I want this. I should be grateful for this opportunity. But jumping to the dismissal of our feelings and saying things like, I should be grateful, or other people have it worse, or this is first world problems. While that might feel true, you still feel anxious. You still have so much doubt and fear inside that dismissing it won't make that go away. So with strategic journaling, we want to tap into that side of you. After writing down those schedule ideas, I kind of pulled myself back into my zone of genius because I realized this isn't what it is about. It's not about the schedule. It's not about these specifics. And I have a section with limiting beliefs. I was writing down what is the actual belief behind it. And I wrote down, I can't homeschool and work for myself. This is where I started getting ahead of myself. I realized sending Griffin to Montessori meant I was suddenly teacher in the mornings, and not that, but I was also fast forwarding to next year, where one option I think will be to send him to kindergarten. Who knows? They might make me send him to first grade. But I was also thinking, what if I do love it? What if I want to continue homeschooling and I put that pressure on myself? So I was really spiraling into, now I'm a homeschool mom. I need to homeschool my kid and run my business in like an hour a day. 30 minutes is what it feels like. Another limiting belief that I wrote down, just being fully transparent with you, is that I need a partner to have the secure income and pay the bills while I do this. I kind of was viewing myself as this, like a stay-at-home mom, and that my money would be fun money, I wrote down, and it's too much responsibility and I'm in over my head, and like, if only this Prince Charming could come save the day type of thing. After I just did a brain dump of what are all the beliefs behind it, this is where I acknowledged the other truths. So back to like the dismissal of our feelings, 2 things can be true. We can feel anxious and fear and doubt and loneliness and all of these things and feel grateful for this opportunity and realize that we are cut out for this. So I have a section called Reminders to Self. And this is where I jotted those things down, just like that. I also wrote down, I feel my most energized when I'm around others, like at a coffee shop. So I could recreate this with Griffin and Child Watch. Here's me jumping to problem solving again. I can start to give Griffin more responsibilities, like putting on his own clothes, jacket, shoes. I can bring Griffin with me to appointments, because the whole other thing is like, when am I going to do therapy appointments? What about my dentist's appointments? Can kids come to those? I've tried to live my life and do my things with just me, because it's easier, honestly, than a kid potentially melting down. And now with Griffin home, I'm like, well, you're coming with me to the dentist, buddy. You're coming with me to the gym. You can have a meltdown in Child Watch if you want. Nail appointments. I've seen other kids get their nails done, but I'm like, I'm not going to get my nails done during my very limited work time. That's when I pour into my clients and my newsletter and my podcast. Do I hire a sitter for that? Do I bring Griffin? So you can see my reminders to self kind of became another brain dumping zone, but it was mostly the 2 things can be true. Just reminders of I feel most energized during these times. And I love being patient and present and home with Griffin. So it's just about setting those boundaries, which is the next and final thing on this Google Doc, is boundaries that I'd like to set. So I put start doing things on his own, meaning start having Griffin do his own things like get dressed. I kind of came to that idea above. I could do quiet time in the morning when he's home. I could have a consistent schedule from 7 to 11 during the week and delegate tasks so that I can focus on income producing tasks. So that's my brain dump from February or March. Since then, in between then and before we actually start, there have been 2 other things I've done outside of strategic journaling. Number one is I was looking up homeschooling schedules just because I'm curious about how other moms do this. I also tried to join some Facebook groups. I didn't find much support there. One of my friends actually homeschools her daughter, so I was chatting with her. She talks me off the ledge. But in researching on my own, I found a morning routine that this one family does that I actually just purchased right before this. It was $14, and it's just worksheets that I want to do with Griffin in the morning. And it walks you through like what day is it? And he'll circle the day. He'll open up the door and see what the weather is like outside and then circle the weather. Based on that, what outfit should he wear? So I think it will make me feel good because my biggest fear is that he's just going to watch TV all day. And that's on me because it's easy to use that as a coping mechanism. Not healthy all of the time. I'm super into screen time strategically. I think we can use it as a tool, but I definitely slip into the mindset sometimes of I need to shower. I know my son is going to not like that and have a meltdown. If I put on the TV, then I can shower. My fear is if I want to clean the house in the morning, if I want to work out, if I literally want to do anything on my own in the morning, I'm going to need to put on the TV. And that's what I don't want. I want to be present and with my son with that flexibility to do what I want to. So we'll see how it goes. I'm going to remember that I said that. I hope that it's like that. But anyways, my plan is let him watch TV in the morning because that's something we already do. Then I told him that I noticed that at daycare, they do a Danny Go dance. And if you don't know what that is, it's on YouTube. And so I told him already that that's at 9 o'clock or whatever time I decide, then we're going to watch a Danny Go video. And then after that, we'll get dressed. Then we'll do this worksheet. However, I'm open to being very flexible. My key thing is that I don't put myself in this hole of like things have to be done this way at this time because that's when I get overstimulated. That's when I get impatient and I'm like, we were supposed to do this 5 minutes ago. We need to get out of the house. And I know that that's a normal feeling that moms feel, but I truly never feel that right now. And it's because I've created a way for me to process all of the stressful things in my life. And I have a system at home with Griffin that is supportive of that and conducive to that. So we'll see if I'm able to keep that up. But that was the first thing was I invested in these worksheets. Then the other thing is that there is this concept that when we are manifesting something, sometimes it doesn't come to us or we feel so much resistance to it when it feels too big. So one example of this is say you are an entrepreneur and you're building your business and you're saying, I want $1 million. If that doesn't feel real to you, then you're not going to manifest it. It doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel tangible. It doesn't realistically feel like something that you can accomplish. So what you could do instead is set a smaller goal. And what this is doing, it regulates your nervous system at a smaller scale. Once that feels comfortable, you can start saying the next level up. So for example, you might know that someday you want to earn $1 million. But right now, ask yourself, what feels best to you? What feels like something that's stretchy, outside of your comfort zone, a little bit scary, but like, yeah, I can see myself doing that though. Maybe it's $100,000. So set that goal of this year, I want to earn $100,000. Once you say that enough, so that could have a whole episode on this. Subscribe if you want to. Stay tuned for that episode. But when we do this, your nervous system will feel more regulated so that then you can say, okay, well, now I want 200,000 or 250,000. And then you can go up from there once your nervous system isn't like, yeah, that's never going to happen, or that's a huge pipe dream, like you wish type of thing. The way that I did this with myself is I recognized that my biggest fear, there's a lot of fears here that I uncovered, but one of them, I should say, is the whole concept of going from working by myself from 7 hours a day to an hour and a half to 2 hours. And so something I did was I realized I make my own schedule. I can start practicing having a shorter day. And so I actually started working later. I started working at 10 a.m. instead of 9 a.m. I would take more breaks and I would unplug by 2 or 3. And it's kind of funny because that even is still like I consider a full work day. But the past few weeks, the past month actually, since Griffin came home from visiting his dad, he has been sleeping in later, like literally until 8:30 or 9. That means that I'm not getting to drop off at his daycare until around 10 a.m. The other day it was 10:30 and I'm like, what is happening? But when I said that, I was like, what is happening? Because I literally said that out loud. I realized, I feel like I'm subconsciously doing this because I know that my schedule is about to get way shorter. Once Griffin starts his Montessori program, we're going to be leaving the house between 11 and 11:15 to get him there on time. So the fact that I did drop off at 10:30, I was like, oh, this makes sense. It's like I'm slowing down my mornings, not purposely, but also subconsciously, very intentionally, so that it feels more realistic to work fewer hours, to be with my son in the mornings without that stress. And the mornings of later drop off were so smooth. They were so great. We both felt happy and like hung out with each other in the morning. And so all this to say that when you want something, it can still be scary. In fact, it probably will be scary. If it's a stretchy goal that is challenging you, it should be scary. And this is a system of how you can kind of move through it. I showed you how I strategically journaled through it. And then those two other things of just looking out into the Google universe of planning ahead, seeing what other people are doing so that I could make my nervous system feel more regulated with a potential routine. And then also actually making my nervous system more regulated by addressing the core belief, my core belief being that drastic cut in work hours wasn't enough. So I started working less, not all the way less, but just down from 7 hours to 5 hours. And then starting to drop my son off at daycare much later and having 4 hours to work. It's starting to make me feel ready for this and excited for this. And that's where I'm at right now. This is the last day of daycare. I'm headed to pick him up in about an hour, and I feel excited for what's to come. I'm hoping to stay flexible. And there are so many times in our life where we just need to do the thing. Then we will see how it feels. We will see the reaction from other people, if that's part of what might be holding you back, and realize, oh, literally nobody said anything, or literally everyone came out of the woodworks and is supporting me with this, right? You just have to do the thing. We could spend so long contemplating, your decision and setting up potential schedules and planning and overthinking. But at some point, you just got to get out there and have the conversation, take the action, do the thing, and see how it goes. So hang tight just a couple months and I'll be back to share with you how it actually goes and what my biggest takeaways are. And I'm sure I'm going to have so many lessons and advice, probably more evolved advice, since I had been through it and I did the thing. Thank you for being here with me on this crazy, wild, emotional journey. Know that you can always reach out to me if you are going through something similar. Words that women keep telling me after I have conversations with them is that I help untangle their chaotic brain and I help them feel relief after just one conversation. Those things are literally multiple people tell me them. And so now I'm just like, wow, I guess that's my magic. So if you're in need of some relief or you're feeling like your days and schedules and brain are chaotic, reach out. You can respond to my newsletter and we can chat, or I'll share some links so that you can get on my email list. Or as always, you can reach me on Instagram or Facebook Messenger. All right, I'll see you next week. Thanks for joining me for today's journal entry. If something resonated with you, I'd love to know about it. Screenshot this episode, share it on social media, and tag me at samantha.s.says. Or even leave a review, which will help more women find this podcast to create more fulfillment in their career and as a mom. And hey, if you're thinking, I wish I could get more of this, I've got you covered. Click on the link in the show notes, which I customize each week based on what we're talking about. And I always include the link to the Calm Mind Blueprint, which are my 5 journal prompts to go from overwhelm to inner peace in 2 to 10 minutes a day. Subscribe so that you catch my Thursday 5-minute journal with me episodes and next week's full episode where we will continue this journey together. I'll see you then.